Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the Prime Minister signals a U-turn on the controversial cuts to winter fuel payments. Hundreds of thousands of pensioners here missed out on it. Keir Starmer says he wants more to have access to it. The Scottish Government is calling on him to reverse it in full. Also on tonight's programme, it's emerged personal and sensitive data has been stolen in a cyber attack on West Lothian's education network. Former Aberdeen and Greenock Morton footballer admits being involved in a plot to smuggle £600,000 of cannabis into the UK.
To start, it was a coping mechanism and also to get off vapes, which has just led to another addiction.
Experts warn young people are replacing soon-to-be-banned disposable vapes with unregulated nicotine pouches.
And coming up in the sport, Aberdeen manager Jimmy Tilleen says players must feel safe at their work after Jack Mackenzie was hit by a seat at Tannadice.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. It has been hugely controversial, the UK government's decision to scrap the universal winter fuel payments. And today, amid mounting pressure, the Prime Minister announced a change of heart, saying more people will now be eligible for the benefit. Around 900,000 pensioners here lost out on the payment last winter. The Scottish Government had already announced plans to mitigate the cuts and today called for a full reversal of the policy. Here's our Westminster correspondent, Rajdeep Sandhu.
At this arts and crafts group in Dundee, the Prime Minister's announcement was for many a welcome change.
I didn't expect them to do a U-turn, but then I didn't expect them to make such a stupid decision in the first place. I think he's doing it because he's realised he's made a political mistake.
Absolutely brilliant. People were gutted.
Right, we come to Prime Minister's questions.
So is this, as opponents say, a screeching U-turn, or is it a government listening to the voters? This was the moment the Prime Minister ditched a policy he has defended countless times before.
We want to ensure that as we go forward, more pensioners are eligible for winter fuel payments. As you would expect, Mr Speaker, we will only make decisions we can afford. That is why we will look at that as part of a fiscal event.
This critic of the policy is glad the government has moved more in his direction. But rather than small tweaks, he wants to see payments brought back for all pensioners.
I would like to see universal reinstatement. I think that the way that we guarantee that everybody that really needs it gets it is to make it universal.
There is little detail on what this means in practice and who exactly will benefit. That will come in the budget in autumn. According to the Scottish Secretary, today's decisions means Labour's plans are working.
Now that we've made those decisions, stabilised the economy and things are on the right track, we can get more money now into people's pockets. The Prime Minister was clear about that at the election.
From this winter, the payment is the responsibility of the Scottish Government, who have said they will bring it back, although at a lower amount. Could this change mean more money for Scottish pensioners?
We need to find out what lies at the heart of the decision of the Prime Minister. What we know is that one of the first acts of a Labour government was to take away the winter fuel payments from pensioners, and an SNP government has restored them for pensioners in Scotland.
The Conservatives are cynical about the reasons behind the change.
It was always unfair. It was unfair then, it was unfair now. And the only reason it seems that Keir Starmer has brought himself about to this U-turn is that he was told on the doorsteps and given a kicking at the local elections.
Keir Starmer says his change of heart is because the economy is improving. But there's another aspect to this. There's been a lot of unhappiness within his own party about cuts the government is making, and a battle coming up next month over disability payments. So it's not surprising if this is more about party management than it is about a better economic outlook. Keir Starmer has seemed immune to political pressure, sticking doggedly to his decisions on how he wanted to fix the economy. But even Prime Ministers with huge majorities can't ignore the way the political wind is blowing. Rajdeep Sandhu, Reporting Scotland, Westminster.
West Lothian Council now says sensitive and personal data has been stolen in a cyber attack on its education network. The local authority was first alerted to a suspected ransomware attack over 2 weeks ago. Well, our reporter Hope Webb has been across this story. Hope, what do we know then?
Yeah, well, I spoke to the local authority within the last hour and actually got another update just before we came on air. And it's now clear that this is more serious of a breach than previously thought. The council says a small percentage of the overall data stored on that education network has been stolen, and that it is aware that some personal and sensitive details are amongst that. Now, I've been told that that figure is less than 10% of all the data on the system, but most worryingly, Laura, the local authority says it can't rule out the possibility that social work notes, medical notes, for example, are amongst the haul taken by criminals.
So how was this new development about the sensitive nature of the data? How was that discovered?
Well, it's understood that the council became aware of this development after it was alerted to a scanned passport being uploaded online. It's not known if that's the passport of a child or an adult, possibly a teacher, for example. And it's important to say that at this stage, it's really difficult to know how much and what data has been taken. It will take weeks, if not months, to go through all of that. Parents and carers at West Lothian Council's 13 secondary schools, 69 primary schools and 61 nurseries will all now be contacted, and the local authority has shared its sincere apologies to anyone affected. A criminal investigation into this attack is ongoing, and the council says it's working with Police Scotland and the Scottish Government.
OK, Hope, thank you. A former Premier League footballer has admitted his part in a plot to smuggle £600,000 worth of drugs from Thailand into the UK. J. Emmanuel Thomas began his career at Arsenal and played for Aberdeen and most recently Greenock Morton. He was arrested after 60 kilos of cannabis was found in suitcases at Stansted Airport. He'll be sentenced at a later date. Laura Foster was in court in Chelmsford.
J. Emmanuel Thomas had been set to be football's next star, a prodigy of the Arsenal Youth Academy team who went on to play for 12 clubs, including Aberdeen, Livingston and most recently Greenock Morton. In an old interview with BBC News, he said he wasn't afraid of what people thought about him.
I'm one of them guys, I'm not really fussed by what other people say. It doesn't really bother me what people think, especially certain people, you know they don't like you. So if you don't like me, I'm not really bothered.
But maybe he worries about that more now that it can be reported that he was involved in a plot to smuggle around 60 kilos of cannabis into the UK through Stansted Airport. The drugs were found on the 2nd of September last year, stashed away in 4 suitcases.
Emmanuel Thomas had previously pled not guilty to importing Class B drugs, but then earlier this month he changed his plea to guilty. But legal reasons mean we haven't been able to tell you this news until now.
The National Crime Agency says Emmanuel Thomas was part of organised crime, a link between drug suppliers in Thailand and dealers in the UK. It says he recruited his girlfriend and her friend to bring the drugs through Stansted. Today, the court heard the women thought they were importing gold, not cannabis, and the charges against them were dropped.
Today, Emmanuel Thomas appeared in court via video link from HMP Chelmsford. He spoke only to confirm his name and to say that he would come to this court for his sentencing. He stared directly at the camera throughout the proceedings and showed no emotion. There was no one in the public gallery to support him.
Emmanuel Thomas will be sentenced at a later date. The maximum sentence for this kind of crime is 14 years in prison. Laura Foster, reporting Scotland at Chelmsford Crown Court in Essex.
Tobacco campaigners are warning the ban on disposable vapes, due to start on the 1st of June, could see more young people turning to stronger nicotine pouches. Health experts say the pouches, nicknamed snus by some teenagers, are addictive and may have other harmful side effects. They're largely unregulated in the UK, and there's currently no law stopping children from buying them. Hayley Jarvis reports.
The ones that use it, I've had no issues buying it, considering these are 16. So that's a wee bit concerning as well.
These teenagers are trying to raise awareness about nicotine pouches.
It was fine for like the first 5 minutes, and then after you swallow your spit, it doesn't taste good and it burns and it makes you feel sick.
It's like an instant nicotine hit, and you get like the big head rush, like pretty much like instantly.
John Paul first tried one when he was 15. Now he uses as many as 5 a day.
I think to start it was a coping mechanism and also to get off vapes, which has just led to another addiction.
They're taking part in a project run by West Lothian Council and the charity Fast Forward.
I wasn't aware how many young people were using nicotine pouches already, and obviously the ban is coming in on the 1st of June for vapes, disposable vapes, so I think it's likely that young people will look for alternatives.
People who use them sometimes call them snus, but that's a different product that contains tobacco. Research indicates the use of nicotine patches is low in the UK, but it appears to be increasing, especially among young men. Social media pages like this point users towards brands they claim need no ID. It isn't currently illegal for children to buy nicotine patches, and sales are on the rise.
You can slip this in your school bag, you can slip 1 or 2 of these into your cheek before you come into the classroom, and the teacher's not going to know.
Campaigners say the pouches can be bought for pocket money prices.
A kid that starts using nicotine pouches, which are easily concealed, which may be sort of highly flavoured and attractive because they've been pushed through social media, that child is much more at risk of ending up as a smoker.
The retailers we have spoken to say they do not sell or market nicotine pouches to under 18s.
Take one from it and essentially just slip it in between your gum and your lip.
This company say their aim is to help people stop smoking.
If they've not smoked before or they've not vaped before, there's absolutely no need to buy a pouch, none whatsoever. It's a harm reduction technique, and it's for current smokers to find a way to stop using combustible cigarettes.
There's little research into the long-term impact of nicotine pouches, but there are concerns they could cause oral health problems.
The habitual storing of a product like that in between the gum and the tooth has the potential to cause the gums to wear away, shrink back, and that will have other long-lasting implications on the teeth.
UK-wide legislation is being proposed to ban the sale of nicotine products, including pouches, to under 18s. It would also regulate their marketing, flavours and packaging. For now, the young people here say the pouches are easy to come by, but they're learning about the risk.
If I could go back and come off, not start, I would.
Hayley Jarvis, reporting Scotland.
Now, remember when the COP26 climate change conference came to Glasgow 4 years ago? At the time, the Scottish Government claimed to have some of the most ambitious targets in the world for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Well, last year, those targets were dramatically scrapped. Now, the Independent Climate Change Committee has proposed new ones, which effectively delay short-term progress by 6 years, but keep Scotland on track to meet its long-term goal of net zero emissions by 2045. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
In the Afford men's shed, they're making a shed. And it uses a fair amount of electricity. Much of that comes from this array of solar panels on the roof.
We're currently generating 13.3 kilowatts into the building.
They have 3 huge thermal stores driven by a heat pump, which manage the heating all year round, and it saves them a fortune.
And this means that for your heating, for your electricity and everything else, everything you're doing in here is entirely green.
At this point in time, and in fact through these few months of the year, we're green insofar as we generate far more energy than we actually use.
Using green heating like this will need to be a priority driver of cuts to emissions, the committee says, but it all needs to happen quickly.
It is urgent. It takes time to build up supply chains. For example, when we're talking about tree planting, we have to get that moving. It takes time again for trees to absorb and store carbon. So we can't afford to wait. We can't afford to hang around and deliberate.
Switching more drivers to electric vehicles will be the backbone of emissions cuts over the next decade. But that will have to go hand in hand with increasing our renewables capacity. Campaigners hope for a second wind.
We've lost momentum around climate action, which should bother everybody because this affects everybody. But also in solving climate change, there's a lot of positive things that we can do, like solve fuel poverty, improve air quality.
Everyone would say that they have to go faster, but there has to be political will around this. And one of the things that I would say is that we need to stop talking about climate change and the response to climate change in terms of negativity. This is a massive economic opportunity.
trees planted today will be most efficient at absorbing carbon dioxide in the 2040s, and so a rapid increase in woodland creation is needed. Today's report turns the screw on the Scottish Government to improve delivery of climate action. They're expected to respond to the advice in the coming weeks. Kevin Keane reporting Scotland.
To some of the day's other stories now. And a drug dealer and 2 accomplices who killed Amy Rose Wilson in a car attack in Falkirk have each been jailed for 11 years. Arslan Sajid drove a Mercedes which hit the back of her car in July 2023. Sajid and associates Andrew Gregoire and Anthony Davidson were originally charged with murder but found guilty of culpable homicide. Senior officers are warning that Police Scotland's Chief Constable is facing an impossible choice between reducing the size of the force or cutting salaries. The Scottish Government says funding for policing is at record levels and more recruits are being taken on than at any time since 2013. But the Association of Scottish Police Superintendents says the force's budget hasn't kept pace with inflation, resulting in a smaller number of officers facing an increased workload. And the broadcaster STV has announced the launch of a new Scotland-focused commercial radio station. The mainstream music station will be on digital radio and online and aimed at the 35 to 54-year-old market. Now, local bus services in Ayrshire and in Arran are facing the prospect of massive disruption because of a pay dispute. Bus drivers there who work for the transport giant Stagecoach are to start a series of strikes on Monday. If the dispute isn't resolved soon, they're planning to go on strike continuously for 6 weeks. Our news correspondent Jamie McIver reports.
Stagecoach is the main bus company in much of the west of Scotland, a major international firm providing vital community services. But these services could be badly disrupted if a local pay row isn't resolved quickly, affecting the lives of those who depend on buses, including the frail and elderly.
I'll just stay in the house. Just stay in the house, Paul. That's all you can do.
I've hurt my foot and I've got arthritis and CBC. That's my shopping. That's how I go shopping. But I wouldn't be here.
And those who don't have cars.
I rely on the buses. I'm self-employed with the company. I'm a contractor. And if I can't get to work, I won't get paid.
The drivers work around Kilmarnock, Ayr, Ardrossan and Arden. The first of 3 one-day strikes is on Monday, then next month a 6-week stoppage is planned.
They are the lowest paid drivers across the whole of the UK, across the Stagecoach group. We're asking for the company to recognise that, to respect our drivers who are professional drivers and to pay them a fair wage.
Stagecoach says its pay offer is fair. It wasn't doing interviews today, but says some services will still run on Monday. But if there's no resolution, this dispute has the potential to become one of the biggest private sector strikes in Scotland for many years. Jamie McIver, reporting Scotland, Ayrshire.
The UK's oldest polar bear, Victoria, who's been a resident at the Highland Wildlife Park for the past 10 years, has died. She was the ripe old age of 28, the equivalent of being in her 90s in human years. But keepers say her health had been failing. She's survived by her son Hamish, who was the first polar bear cub to be born here for 25 years. Andrew Thompson reports.
When Victoria came to the park over a decade ago, she was followed by the patter of tiny paws with the arrival of Hamish, the first of 2 cubs she had here. Recently though, with old age catching up on her and declining quality of life, it was decided putting her down would be the kindest option.
It's absolutely heartbreaking and it's very, very sad. But we know that her health was deteriorating and you want to make the best assessments for your animals, and we don't want any of our animals to suffer. So we care as much about them as our pets at home, so we want to make the right decisions for the sake of the animal to make sure that they are okay.
In her prime, Victoria was an active bear, but she'd slowed down due to health issues including arthritis. However, vets at the park had found clever ways of providing treatments.
I have to admit, and this is a little bit naughty, I was wearing gloves, but thumbing blueberries into her mouth to get her to take her medicine is going to stay with me for a long while. She was a gentle, gentle girl, but she's been there through it all, just sort of stoically being brilliant. She was a great mom. You know, she's been really adorable right up to the end.
The Highland Wildlife Park is perhaps best known for its polar bears. Victoria's mate Arctos is still here, seen cooling off earlier today. And when her two cubs, Hamish and Brodie, were small, there was a surge in visitors, keen to catch a glimpse of them.
They would be absolutely annihilating the whole enclosure, swimming, playing with the trees, and Victoria would just sit at the side of the pond enjoying her boys' play, basically. So that's how most of her guys know her, that she was just a very relaxed bear, but she would always make sure they weren't too far out of her eyesight to make sure that they were okay.
Victoria's lasting legacy is the important role she played in the European polar bear breeding programme, helping to ensure there's a healthy, genetically diverse population in captivity. Andrew Thompson, reporting Scotland at the Highland Wildlife Park.
OK, Sheila's here with tonight's sport now. Hi, Sheila.
Hi Laura, good evening. The Aberdeen manager Jimmy Tilleen says players must feel safe at their work after his defender Jack McKenzie received what the club described as a serious facial injury when he was struck by a seat thrown from a section housing his own supporters at Tannadice. It's not the first time Premiership players have been struck by objects thrown from the crowd. Celtic's Arnie Engels was hit by a coin thrown by a supporter at Ibrox earlier in the season. Tilleen says it's unacceptable, but as he prepares to take his team to Hampden for the Scottish Cup final, the Swede has praised the Aberdeen fans for their backing since his arrival at Pittodrie.
In every area where you're working in life, if it's football or somewhere else, you have to feel safe at the job, of course. But incidents can happen sometimes in life, in football, somewhere else, and it's not okay because it happened, but it can happen. But overall, if you think about the big picture, all the support we have this year, the Aberdeen football family, it's an incredible experience for me to be involved with this year. All the emotions during the whole season, the support we have the whole season. So overall, it's an amazing club and supporters.
Well, it's been a crazy season for Aberdeen results-wise, from early title challengers to an incredible slump. Tilleen's reign got off to a flyer with 13 straight wins, but it all unravelled pretty quickly, with the Dons then failing to win a single match in 12 outings. They steadied the ship a little in the new year, but they go into Saturday's showpiece on the back of 4 straight defeats.
It's a final. Of course, we learn things from that game, but it's also a final. It's a different kind of game than in the league, and when you feel the spirit among the players that they also want looking forward to the game, and you can feel the belief among the players. So that's in the past. Now it's the final, the only thing we can see in front of us.
Well, less than 24 hours after either Aberdeen or Celtic lift the Scottish Cup, Glasgow City and Rangers will fight it out for the Women's Trophy. Both sides had a disappointing end to the league season as they watched Hibernian win the SWPL title, and it was particularly painful for Rangers, who would have been crowned champions had they beaten the Edinburgh side at home on the last day.
We can't make up for what happened in the league. We don't shy away from that, but we've got to put a few things right. We've got to make sure that we're proud of our performances. You know, we've not been proud of a lot of performances that we've put on throughout this season, and it hasn't been good enough ultimately. But as I said, we've got another game. We've got a chance to put it right, and when there's a trophy on the line, you've got to do all you can.
This club is synonymous with lifting trophies, and it's something that we pride ourselves on in terms of being in the latter stages of competitions and being up there fighting right till the end. So, of course, any trophy lift is special. The Scottish Cup in itself is a special competition, especially to the Scottish players and staff. It's something that we've grown up with, and the fact that we're now able to play at the National Stadium as well just adds that little bit more excitement.
Finally, to tennis, and Novak Djokovic admits his partnership with Andy Murray didn't deliver the results they'd hoped, but says he's full of respect for the Scot. Murray coached the 24-time Grand Slam champion for 6 months before they parted ways earlier this month. The Serb reached the Australian Open final in their first tournament together before retiring through injury, but has lost his first match in 4 of his past 5 competitions.
We couldn't get more out of that partnership on the court, and that's all there is to it. My respect towards Andy remains the same, even more actually. I got to know him as a person we didn't reach what we both hoped that we can reach in a relationship in terms of results, and that's all there is to it. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We gave it a try, and that's it.
And that's all your sport from me.
Parting on good terms, though. Good stuff. Thank you, Sheila. Christopher's here. Where are we with this rain, then? It's not here yet.
Well, it's not here, but it is coming. You know, it's not rained for about 5 weeks in some parts of the country, but the rain, welcome for many, is on the way this weekend. Before we get there, many more scenes like this through tomorrow and Friday. Sunshine and blue sky. Thank you very much indeed. Good evening to you. Yes, we've had lots of dry and fine weather right across the country today as our dry and settled spell continues. Tomorrow it's dry and sunny again, but it will be cooler. Today it was around about 20 degrees in Fort William. Tomorrow around about 16 or 17. Before we get there, this evening, we've got evening sunshine and then overnight cloud working southwards. That's a cold front, bringing the odd spot of drizzle. Temperatures overnight around 4 to 7 Celsius and a few showers in towards the Northern Isles and at times working their way down the east coast. But you can see tomorrow that cold front continuing to slip southwards, introducing cooler air. It still will be dry and sunny, but a good bit cooler for many compared with today. First thing, the cloud in the southwest from the overnight clears, and then lots of dry and fine weather, a few showers across the Northern Isles and at times drifting their way down the east coast. But as I say, it will be a dry and sunny day pretty much across the board once again. Cooler though. So temperatures in the west 17 to 18 degrees. Today we've been up to around 22 degrees. In the east 12 to 14 Celsius. If you're in that breeze from the north, it will feel quite cool at times, but not far off average actually for the time of year. A few showers across the far north and the Northern Isles are set to continue. And then tomorrow evening sunshine. Tomorrow night dry and clear, colder than this coming night. A fairly widespread frost in places, so gardeners and growers beware. Temperatures there in towns and cities 2 to 5 Celsius. That takes us further into the week. This is Friday now, and it's once again largely dry and settled. Some sunshine, a few showers with us around the north coast, and again a bit of a cool feel in places. You can see behind me though what's on the way, cloud and rain. As we head overnight Friday into Saturday, that wet weather will arrive with low pressure now taking over for the weekend. So rain moving in, and it will be quite windy at times too. Welcome rain, I should add. So you can see on the outlook, it's not just Saturday and Sunday that's unsettled and wet, but actually that change to wetter weather sticking with us throughout the course of next week, and temperatures around about average. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you, Christopher. And that is Reporting Scotland. Laura McKeever will have your late news at 10:30 tonight. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.